he could have got himself into a lot of trouble. So we min raise like we said before, and this is a pocket pair, so if we do get called, as you know, we're going to be check raising the, well, in this case raising the flop, or check raising. Okay, so this will be interesting. What he's basically saying is he's flat called us with a big hand because he didn't want us to scare us if we were just on the steal. He's interpreted this possibly as a his weakness, although it does look like he's got a hand, and now he's obviously shown his cards. So we'll fold here and we'll see what happens. Yeah, I mean, I think he's probably. I mean, I think this player at the top here has really got to understand that this player isn't getting out of line here. I mean, he's read the situation perfect. This player's attempted to squeeze play with a marginal hand, and he's come over the top of him. Although, when this player has then went and pushed in, I think he's priced in with ace queen. But I mean, he only had at the time, what was it, $1 invested. He should be getting away from that. So we can I think we can say that this is a weak player here, and hopefully he may be a little bit tilty and we may get paid off from him. And I think we will I think we'll make a little note of that. So this is the player we need to we may need to play a pot with hands such as ace, obviously ace king definitely, possibly ace queen suited, possibly nines, tens, jacks. Those are the kind of hands where I think we would be willing to go all in. What we'll also have to be aware of is this Jamshi Manu, because we are going to be raising the button quite a lot here. When he does flat call, then there's a good possibility that he'll be trapping with hands like he did last time with the ace queen. Obviously, this play at the top by re-raising got us out of trouble, and also give this player Jamshi Manu a chance to come over the top. But if Hisland hadn't been there, then I don't think we would have really ever put him on ace queen. By the way, I don't like the trap you call out the small blind with ace queen, because he has to play the hand out of position. I don't mind the flat call in position, but certainly not when you play it out of position. Obviously keeping an eye on this Hisland at the other table as well, see if he's going to get... this is actually a better position for us because we're on the left for what, 4 hands out of the 6th, whereas here he's actually on our left, so the roles are reversed. I'm guessing he's perhaps won a pot here because he's on $20 while he's on $10 here. I didn't notice what he was on before he lost that big pot. Now, although this isn't something I would normally do, um, because of the player that's there and because of the type of hand I've got, the speculative hand, I am going to call out a position. I've got queens on either table. If he bets it, and this player I want whiskey folds, if he bets about $1, I don't mind calling that, even though we are out of position. I think I'm gonna. This player here had the check button already clicked, probably the check fold button. So I'm actually going to bet $1 here. Because I think if I check, I think Hislin is gonna bet regardless, and he may bet more than $1. So here he is. We're not going to fall in the same trap as Jamshi Manyo did by flat call, and we're going to re-raise this player here. Now that was unexpected. That was very unexpected. Right, we've got flop quads here. It's one of the few times where I won't see bet. This is a strange one. I can only imagine that he must have to have the check button. I mean, what could he have? Ace-3 of diamonds? I'm just going to have to let it... he's got jacks, he's drawn absolutely dead. How we got paid off in this hand, I don't really know. He must really be super tilting, because it's a horrible hand when you flop quads and when you're against one opponent, because you have to check to them. And then when you suddenly call a flop bet and a turn bet, you know, alarm bells should be ringing. It's slightly easier to play in position quads, because you can, you know, you don't necessarily have to have trips, or obviously as we know, quads. But yeah, we done combination of, you know, a pretty tilty player there, got us paid off. If there's multiple players in the pot, sometimes, you know, you can even bet with quads, because you're not normally losing any value, because it's so hard for you to get paid. Going back to the other hand, I mean, it's from to have the check button. The check button clicked. I don't know. I don't think you would automatically check a set, because if this player had bet, he would have wanted to come over the perhaps come over the top. This might be one of those hands where he's hit the miracle card. He could have ace-3, could have had the ace-3 of diamonds and got lucky, or he could just be on. He could be a maniac on an absolute pure bluff, and he read us for weakness. But I didn't want to bet there, because I didn't want him to raise us off the hand. Although I was going to be prepared to call a reasonable bet, up to probably a pot-sized bet there. But we'll pay attention to that player and see if we can pick anything else up. We're going to bet half the pot there, not because we've got the 10, but because there's an ace on board, and those are the kind of flops you need to be betting. So many players are scared of the ace, but if there's an ace on board, there's only 3 left in the deck. Most of the time the player won't have it, so it's a great card to bet, and it's a great card to re-raise if someone bets into you. Well, we've got a gut shot as well with our 10, and there's nothing to say we're beat yet, so that's probably one of the worst cards in the deck, though, because it makes the straight draw and the flush draw, so we're going to fold. Yeah, so types of flops you should be betting at. Ace high boards, paired boards, and dry boards, something like King 7-2 Rainbow. Those are the boards, and you can just bet them at this level. You don't need to overthink it. But when you do move up the levels, you'll find that the better players know that those are the types of boards to bluff at. So you'll have to mix up your play. Sometimes you'll bet them, sometimes you'll raise on them. Sometimes what you'll have to do is like a delayed continuation bet, where you're basically checking or floating on the flop. I'm out of position here with sixes. I'm actually going to just fold them. Yeah, so rather than continuation betting on the flop, you can just check or call a bet and then fire out on the turn. By doing that, you sometimes get a bit more. Any bet on the later streets, the turn, especially the river, there's less chance that you're bluffing, and it'll get more respect. Okay, so raised with ace 10, 3 big blinds. We've been called of this player. Now, if you remember before, he doesn't like to re-raise. But I think this is one of the dry flops I was talking about. We can bet it. He may well float if he with a lot of aces there, but they've folded. Had we been in his position there, perhaps not always, but if a player continuation bet, a player raised pre-flop, we call with ace 10, and then the flop comes down like 9-2-3 rainbow. If we have position and that player bets into us, rather than raise on that flop, I would be tempted to call a bet, and then more often than not, the player will check the turn. You can then bet the turn, and if they do make a loose call, I find that most of the time, it's one of the few times when I will bluff, you can shove the river and shove a blank river, and they'll think for a long time, but eventually they will fold. And of course, some of the time your ace will be good anyway, or you'll improve to the best hand. I mean, that's more of a play that you use as you go up the levels, but sometimes you can use it against specific opponents. You can bluff occasionally. Well, technically, I think whenever you've got something like that, it is a semi-bluff. Yeah, we can call that 5-1 on our money with Jack 9. Because it's a small pot, I'm not going to bet every pot, especially the ones I'm out of position, especially when you're against a blind who can obviously have anything. 10-7, we'll fold to a raise. So coming back to what I was talking about before, about players coming into cash games thinking they're going to get rich quick, looking to play big pots all the time. The swing, you'd have to be a very, very good player to be playing big pots all the time and show profit. The swings would be massive, if anything. The best players in the world are only making between maybe 2 to 5, 2 to 6 big blinds per 100 hands. So if you're getting 100 hands on a table, if you can show an average profit of, well, let's look at this. And you could I'd probably say about 10 big blinds at this level, but so that's only $2. So it might not sound like much, but if you can make $2 an hour on this table, and there's nothing to stop you playing multi-tables, 4, 5, 6 tables as you get more competent. So that's $12 an hour. That's a minimum